Morning all. Barnet had to play Wood Green last night, so some of Wood Green members play for Barnet in the Hearts League now. In fact, David Cutmore and G.Hasman. Now Cengiz, both of them are doing really well in the Hearts League, but Cengiz in particular is on 6 out of 6, giving him an ECF performance. If that league was like the only games, he's got an ECF performance there of 232, which I think is like the second highest rating performance in the Hearts League. He's beaten quite a few 200 players, so he's even higher up on rating performance than IMs like Simon Knott. So anyway, so I got to play him again. I was very lucky last time I played him, but I think last night I was extremely lucky, not just on the board, but also because he was, I think, completely exhausted from the weekend and all the travelling he was doing on the weekend, and just arriving in England on the day of this game. So what happens when we're totally exhausted? Well, I think it does affect one's game if one is totally exhausted. And I know from long grueling tournaments, sometimes I've done badly at the end. Tail end's been, my play's just collapsing. Can't see anything, can't think positionally, can't think tactically. Choice of openings terrible. All basic decision-making processes are affected. And actually, I've recently been really thinking about this idea of factoring this in, that if exhaustion can basically ruin all your decision making, positional, tactical, and everything else, then perhaps if you're going to take the set of games you play during a season, or especially online and offline, if you're an online player as well, then maybe factoring exhaustion in to one's thinking process is an idea. I.e., for example, if you have this choice of winning an online game, and you could make it long and painful. I don't know. You could make it a long game. You could put loads and loads of effort in, or you could make it just a speed game which you don't take at all seriously, and you might win with some speculative gambit. How will that impact you the next day, or even for your next game online? So we've got this quota of games during our season, during our tournaments. Also, we've got online and offline games. So I thought, how do you factor in? Is it worth factoring in exhaustion? And maybe actually styles of player comes in here, because the intuitive players like Capablanca, apparently, he was only spending like minutes maximum on particular moves, and that's why he was also so wonderful in the huge simultaneous exhibitions that he was giving, because he was playing often very quickly anyway in normal serious games, serious in inverted commas. So I don't know, intuitive players maybe use up less energy. They're relying on intuition, and of course we're told, as we increase our understanding of chess, that generalizations are only crutches. But really, I think when we think about generalizations like control of the center, they're crutches, but also I think they're more ergonomic in thinking. You don't exhaust yourself if you say to yourself, I'm going to improve my best piece, I'm going to do this on general principles. So that's intuitive type thinking. But if you get into the hard finesses of positions, that takes work for me. I just find that's really, like, we're not really cut out like computers, like engines, to look at millions of positions and millions of variations, and we haven't got the accuracy, we haven't got the stamina. We deteriorate in quality basically as we get exhausted. So my opponent was totally exhausted basically for this game. So please, be less harsh on his play. I played d4, and as a context, I had played 70 games of Bullet the previous morning on the Sunday against Ank on Chesscube, and then also 70 games later in another huge match. That was after playing in the war zone at 12:15. So I've got a bit chess crazy online recently. And obviously I do the live commentary videos, but yeah. But I think if you don't treat games seriously, then your next games you actually can actually play better because you're less exhausted. I wasn't feeling too bad for this game. So anyway, he played the King's Indian, and okay, so far we don't really have to think too much about our moves, except here I pause for thought. Which variation do I want to choose here? 4 pawns attack looks a bit risky. Maybe, you know, Simon Williams has won recently. Well, I remember a memorable game he annotated. It was nice, but G3, I don't think so. Mainline classical, I don't like Black's Kingstorm. So I was actually confused. Can I play like Bronstein? When did he play H3 in this knight maneuver against David Sands? I was wondering. I couldn't quite work out the details, and so I really thought I was stuck actually here, because I haven't actually wasn't totally decisive of what to play. And I used to play when I was younger this move, F3, so I played it here. So it was from Raymond Keene's book, one of the sort of system recommendations. Now the system recommendations are actually another name, I think, now looking back, as a way of getting trump cards out of the opening, because a system, you're playing the system to be able to get something in particular. Now here the idea is just very primitive. Bishop E3, Queen D2. When black castles, you then play like this: H4, H5, HG. Get rid of the dark square bishop. Get your queen onto H6. Then play G5 with the knight on G3. Then they move the knight. Then you mate on H7. So that's the plan with this system. And I had really good results of it actually overall. Except I think I had to play John Nunn once, who's a real expert on the King's Indian, and he completely crushed me. I think I played F3 against John Nunn. Anyway, yeah, and he sort of had this really vicious queenside attack. He won a pawn on C4. It was horrible. But anyway, my opponent Genghis played actually B6, and I was really confused now. I thought, oh no, I don't even know where to castle now. So he's getting this. Also, there's the idea of C5 as a gambit, which maybe I didn't want him to play really. But B6, I was sort of relieved, because it wasn't the C5 stuff, which I didn't really know that well. On the other hand, I thought, hold on a sec, this is really sneaky, because if I play this routine plan, he's going to play, you know, knight D7, C5, encourage me to play D5, then he's going to play A6, B5, and I'm going to get slaughtered. Maybe the knight's going to go here. C4 is going to be a problem. I'm going to get slaughtered with my king on C1. So, okay. So that's a bit of a snag with trying to castle queenside. Okay, maybe a little bit negative there, but that's the general idea. Anyway, I play bishop E3, despite that fear, and he plays knight BD7. And I thought, hang on a sec, there's a weakness of the last move here. The knight is actually blocking the bishop going on H3. And also I've got this nice little pigeonhole, you know, like in a previous game someone played H3 and used the knight. I've actually got a little one here, F2. I thought this would be a cute move. I can actually play in this position without having my pawn structure resemble my grandma's teeth, as some Bulgarian saying goes. I can actually play knight H3 without allowing the double pawns of bishop takes H3. And of course I wondered, oh, hold on a sec, this is just beauty for the sake of beauty. You know, what would be the point of the knight on F2 anyway? Okay, it's a bit closer to the centre, but you know, it could have gone here. It could have, you know, gone here. Maybe it would have been more useful on G3. Am I just being a bit too aesthetic with this idea? But anyway, I played it anyway. Knight H3, plays C5. Okay, he's tempting my dark square weaknesses. But I thought, hold on a sec, hold on. If I play D5, okay, I'm giving him the E5 square. This diagonal might be really painful. But if his bishop's on B7, it's going to be a spectator, isn't it? And in fact, lo and behold, here, he plays A6, and I play now a committal move. Let's get back to this bishop B7 stuff later when it happens. But here, after A6, now he's really saying, look, castle queenside and really get the full whack of all the pieces. You know, B5, you know, knight B6, C4 is going to be a problem. You're going to get the full whack of the pieces, and the king isn't committed even yet. So this is the point. How many waiting moves can I play without castling? How many waiting moves can the opponent play without castling? Now, this next move, if I want to try and stop b5, I can do it in a radical way, but it will make castling queenside more unattractive. So a4, I do it anyway. So I'm deciding almost now that I'm potentially either going to leave my king in the centre, or I'm going to castle later. And I vaguely remember actually this Lloyd's Bank game, some sort of post-mortem analysis, I think with Richard Tozer playing white. And he sort of expressed the opinion if he had his bishops like this and he could get his attack in and leave his king in the centre. I vaguely remember that from years ago. It just came into mind. I don't know. So this idea of leaving the king in the centre with the two bishops here was a sort of passing thought as well. So anyway, he plays queen c7, and I play this move, which I'm kind of cynical of. You know, is it looking good, but what is it actually doing? Okay, and then he plays bishop b7, and I'm thinking, actually, you know, I've been talking about spectator pieces recently with regard to like dynamic sacrifices. Often the attacking player, as well as the brilliant move or whatever, which everyone celebrates, it's this idea of making your opponent's pieces look like spectators. And I was wondering, this one in particular, can I make this guy look like a spectator, this bishop on b7? How would I do that? Also, I was wondering, what on earth is actually the queen doing on c7? Okay, it's actually facilitating the legality of castling queenside, but who on earth would castle queenside in the King's Engine? And I thought, hold on a sec, maybe an idea is actually e6, break open the centre, and if cd, which is the natural capture, then the queen actually supports c4. Now, this is an interesting idea, because then one might be worried about knight c5s and knight b3s, especially if the queen's here, because a knight b3 would actually fork these two guys. So I thought, is this a worrying plan? This idea of e6, c4 from black, and knight c5 after, sorry, ed, cd, c4, knight c5. Is that a worrying plan? And I was wondering, hold on a sec, can I justify the prettiness of this knight actually by taking cheekily here? Although, would that make the e file really exposed? Would e3 be exposed? How long would this knight last on e4? Wouldn't black just kick it with f5? So already I had this idea of trying to make this bishop a spectator and trying to avoid this idea of c4 and knight c5. Engine checking this, though, it seems that cd was the way to capture from the engine point of view, because if black ever does c4, I assume the queen's not stuck on d2. Imagine it's on c2, eyeing b3. Then if black does knight c5, it's possible then to sometimes take on c4. So maybe that wasn't a big deal. So the way I'm thinking now of capturing with ed is kind of radical. And I guess I'm starting to be confused by all these waiting moves by both sides, not castling. And then I'm thinking, why is club chess so immensely complex? Why can't it be like normal, like the GM games? You know, they generally castle. There's generally exploitable weaknesses. Why is it in my own games that, you know, again, no one offers exploitable weaknesses, no one even wants to castle? Is my reputation preceding me? King's Crusher, you know, don't castle against King's Crusher, only castle when you've completely confused King's Crusher or something. So why are there all these waiting moves in this game? I have no idea. I play another one, bishop e2, and he doesn't castle again, of course. I have no idea where he's going to castle, and that affects plans. But I thought, hold on a sec, this can't go on. I'm going to have to do something committal again. I've sort of almost ruled out casting queenside, but after this next move, I just can't take the pressure of this. I've got to do something. But also I'm factoring in now that the bishop's spectator, and I don't want this knight c5 business. So I'm thinking, hold on, and I also want to make this knight not just pretty but functional. So what about this ed idea? But wouldn't it be nicer if there was a pawn on g5 anyway? I know blocking this bishop and get rid of my childhood fantasy plans of bishop h6. It rules out all that business, but it does get this knight on e4. And as every Russian schoolboy knows, there's this generalization that if you have a knight on e4 in the King's Engine, you're generally winning. So I thought, okay. There's this idea of planned trickery as well, and these thoughts again go back to Lloyd's Bank Masters with this Motazavi game about how he switched plans, and you know, this preparation to be able to switch from positional thinking to kingside thinking, and vice versa. This versatility. So this great versatility echoes here. If I play G4, G5 and go for E4, I'm really switching the plan sneakily. But why is this game so complicated? It's only a club game. Why is there such complexity here? That we're not casting, it's shadow boxing. Threats are stronger than the executions. I've no idea what's going on here now. Anyway, I have some vague idea that I do want to do this little trick that I'm actually going to play positionally. I'm going to pretend as though it's an aggressive move, as though I'm going for an attack on the king if it was on the king side. Of course he hasn't castled king side. I play it anyway. G4. Okay. Now he actually plays ED. And here is the point. Do I really want to go ahead with this radical concept of ED, which looks actually kind of ugly, but does mean this knight is actually more functional on E4? And we know, of course, about the magic of the centre. So, is it ED or is it CD or G5? G5 I'm starting to rule out because I'm thinking maybe he does D4, he lets me take on F6, and he takes back and he's still got this fork. Maybe he takes back with the bishop and he's still forking these two guys. So I'm not sure about allowing D4 with G5. I don't want to engine check it. I think I have to take with one of the pawns. So I go with this radical idea now. E takes D5. Please, can this shadow boxing end? Can he just castle somewhere? And finally he castles. He plays castles queenside. I thought, this is actually, I don't know. If I'm too reckless with trying to attack him, I don't want to make this bishop active, like someone did against me recently, and that would win the game on the diagonal. It'd be a winning bishop. So got to be careful about tampering too much with black's king safety at the expense of the scope of the pieces. So I go with this E4 knight plan, G5, thinking actually, also if the knight moves, I'm also binding against H6. Big mistake. You know why? He doesn't have to go, well, to H5 there's F4 potentially, but he doesn't have to go to E8, he just goes back to G8. And from G8, to my shock horror, of course he's going to be able to play H6. The knight's actually supporting H6. So what have I just done? I'm going to lose my G pawn, I'm going to have fragmented pawns here, he's got the E file. Okay, I thought, don't panic, okay, no panic. Let him play H6. Doesn't matter. I'll play this move anyway. Knight F E4. And actually, he doesn't play H6. I mean, H6 is also a pin. I can't play H4. He's going to just take it. I can't take with the pawn because the rook is hanging. Do I leave the knight on F2? That was another thing. And no, I played it anyway, Knight E4. But actually, to my surprise, he actually played F5. And that's a more central pawn, of course. That F7 pawn is more central than the H7 pawn. And you might think, well, there's no big deal there. Okay, I can just play G takes now, surely. So I play G takes. He takes with the knight, and my centre's getting a little bit undermined, and I don't like these pawns particularly. So maybe this was all a bad idea. If only I can try and exploit D6, but he's got E5, so that's not really an exploitable weakness. Can I play these A5 moves? I've got to be careful a bit. If he takes, how do I proceed? How do I get back this pawn? Queen A4, what? Do I want an exchange of queens? I'll have no attack. So, then I stumbled on the idea here. Actually, there's something really sneaky about A5 here. That, okay, he gets the double pawns. I don't have to rush in with Queen A4. I have this genius moment here. I wonder if you can spot the idea. Also, this B2 might be a bit vulnerable to knight E4s. If he wants to pick that up, that might be useful. So I want to kill two birds with one stone. I don't really like killing birds, by the way. I've never killed any birds. I'm not a bird shooter. That's just an expression. But what would be the move that you play here if I give you 10 seconds starting from now? Okay, it's probably not a good move at all. In fact, I don't want to check with engine, that's too boring. But what I played, I thought was cute. It was Rook A2. I don't know if it's any good, actually. Who cares? The idea is Queen A1. It looks good. Queen A1, just trying to get the A pawn back, and then maybe Rook A6 later, and then vicious kingside attack. Okay, he plays rook d8. A lot of pressure has been exerted on my position. I just calmly castle. He now takes on e4. I recharge the knight. Again, now here's a big decision. I'm thinking he's going to leave this knight alone surely. It's better to take with the knight than the pawn, because otherwise I'm strategically lost. You know, knight on e5 looks beautiful. Huge knight. Nice blockade. His attack will play itself. Everything will be sorted. There's no counter attack with such a knight on e5. So I thought the lesser evil decision actually here is to play knight takes e4, because at least if he plays knight f6 to undermine and try and undermine the e file, try and expose these bishops, I can always play bishop d3 anyway, and at least he won't have that monster knight on e5. Please, no monster knight on e5. I'm fed up with those games where people getting this e5 knight. Don't want it. So anyway, prefer this. Knight f6. Anyway, I still stick a piece in the centre. Bishop d3. I'm relieved. His knight's gone. No knight torture tonight. Bishop takes e4. Now the bishop isn't so bad on e4. It's holding the f3 pawn. It's holding d5. Black hasn't actually got a b5 break to undermine c4. Maybe in the future I can pick up a5. So maybe the position's not so bad. I'm a pawn down. But he's providing ghosts of threats now with queen d7. Or maybe real threats. You know, rook e4 is always on as an option with queen g4 as if the queen's not on g4. Bit wary. But anyway, I play this next move with the idea, actually, I'm not just attacking the pawn again. The queen could come to g2 to sort of protect e4, protect g4, and h3. So he plays rook hf8. I'm feeling the pressure, the tactical pressure here. Full view scope, the blasting rooks down these files. I want to sort of soak up some of the pressure. Prophylaxis move, queen g2. In fact, he regretted not playing queen h3 here in post-mortem. And you know, if the queen's come off, this attack's not really a big deal. Maybe it's like less than what happened in the game actually. So rook hf8. I played queen g2, prophylaxis, and I thought now, okay, rook e5. He's coming in for the kill, is he? How is this kill working then with rook e5? What does rook e5 do? It actually supports maybe g5 and g4. I thought, okay, hold on. If there's g5 as a threat, I could play h3. But then he plays h5. I thought, hold on a sec. Couldn't I cheekily take on g5 there if his pawn's on h5? Because then there wouldn't be h6. So I thought, I'm holding the fort here. Surely, if I can just hold the fort a little bit longer, I can take on a5. Just want to hold the fort tiny little bit longer. So anyway, with that in mind, that I'm going to answer g5 maybe with h3 to provoke h5. I play to restore material equality with rook takes a5, because also there's another fort connected to this other fort here, not just defense but also attack with b4, trying to play c5. You know, if he takes, trying to undermine the remnants, the pawn chain in the centre at the exploitable base, which happens to be, well, to play b4 to try and undermine d6. Then maybe even the diagonal one day might be weak against the black king, or maybe c5 just generally, you know, rook c1s. It's going to be potentially dangerous for the black king, I hoped. Now he played a surprise move, which I think, you know, shows a bit of lack of consistency, exhaustion on his part. You know, my friend Costas Keronis, Fat and Ned, says chess is a concrete game. I'm arguing now, yeah, while chess is a concrete game, if your thinking is too concrete, or you're totally exhausted from trying to look at all these tiny finesses of details from games prior to the game you're playing, then you're not really going to be playing the position, you're not going to be playing as accurately. Exhausted chess can't be concrete chess more than intuitive chess, surely, if you're not exhausted. So if you've got the choice, intuitive chess where you're not totally exhausted, or trying to play concrete in one game but completely exhausted in the next, what would you choose? I think the opponent is totally exhausted. He doesn't play g5, which would cause me some anxiety, because there's the g file as well as the undermining of these bishops on the e file with g4. It's lack of consistency here. Rook e8. Why is he letting me play b4 for free here? surely b4's like an aggressive move now. I was thinking, oh, you know, I'll play it. I've got to play it. What can I do? This, okay, he might cheekily take, but surely the c file, you know, I don't know, he might try and cling on to that pawn or something with bishop c3. I've got to play b4 now, surely. So I play b4. Before it's too late, sorry. Before b4 it's played. Queen c7. Okay, this is a bit techie. What has he got in mind here with this move? Queen c7. Well, I guess one thing, there's a little trap I notice. You know, bishop takes would not be a good idea to try and win the queen, because there'll be bishop d4 check. I don't think I've got time to try and prepare bishop c5 with king h1, particularly, because maybe he just takes, then he's on the rook. The rook's loose. So, okay, I play a little retreat. I play rook a4. And now this is real exhaustion on my opponent's part. I'm sure there's good moves which don't wreck his position here. Let's just check with Houdini here. This surely is not totally critical. Black's actually fine here, in theory, if he just attacks the rook. In fact, black might be better. It's Houdini's giving. If takes, then there's a cheeky move takes to be able to play in a lot of lines. Well, c5 you could just take, and then bishop c3, and black might actually be okay, although there's a little bit of pressure. In fact, here's a variation from earlier. Let's turn that off. A long variation from earlier, where it's a scenario where I could sack the exchange, get the exchange back, and it'll just be about equal. But this next move, he doesn't do that. He actually, after b4, he took, and I'm celebrating a battery here of rooks on the b file against the concrete target b7. I'm playing rook takes b4 now. I thought, I can't believe my luck here. What? I'm going to play rook b1. These rooks are kind of dangerous, aren't they? On b7, and he's totally exhausted. But the position's actually quite crushing now from a technical perspective. I don't think there's much black can do about this. Because there's also, adding to the mix, even if bishop a8, there's also queen h3s here, and potential bishop b6s. There's a lot of nasty things about black's position here, with the king on c8, and the queen and bishop huddled like this. So I'm after the spectator now, what was previously identified as a spectator, that bishop on b7. He plays rook f7, thinking he's just keeping his position solid, rook fb1, and now he plays rook e7. I was thinking, hold on a sec. The queen is worth 9 or 10, depending on who you ask. If you like the queen for coordination in blitz games, maybe you'd give it 10. It's easier to coordinate than 2 rooks. Most books, I think, give it 9, apparently. You guys have been saying on previous videos when I've said about 10. Okay, so let's imagine anyway, the queen's worth, say, 9. The bishop's worth 3. Let's be generous there. Knights are only worth 2.5. Bishop's given a little bit extra weight. So we're talking 9, we're talking plus 3, 12, 2 rooks, give them only 5 each, that's a plus 3. If I take on b7, I'm sure that's plus 3. So what caveats in the position, what exceptions are making this worthwhile for black here? My back row isn't too weak. Surely this magical bishop centralised in the centre is protecting b1. I'm also checking now, hang on, what about queen h3 as well? Is that a good move first? I thought, do I be a perfectionist? Do I really need to calculate this? And then I started calculating actually also bishop a7. I was thinking, bishop a7, do I really need to do this? There might actually be bishop takes d5 here. And then he's threatening queen takes a7 check. Why do I need to complicate like this? So I thought, this is an opportunity to just take on b7 and worry about it after. So I think I'll take on b7 here. I can't see anything wrong with it. And I think he realised that this whole plan is of course messed up. He's losing material here. He was wondering why I gave him 2 rooks. And this is the problem. If you're totally exhausted, even if you've got a 230 performance in one of the leagues, if you're totally exhausted for a game, your judgment is going out the window. Now, this is not really a discussed issue in chess thinking. Are we all after the perfect game? If so, why? We're not just playing one game the entire year. We're playing online, offline, other games the day before, travelling. everything's more information intensive society. Our brains are getting overloaded. So basically he's totally exhausted for this game, and this whole plan with CB4 is completely flawed. It's completely gone, his position here. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Surely this is not happening. Queen takes B7, I take on B7, he takes, and I'm thinking now, not only have I won his queen and bishop, I've also got this cheeky check on H3 if I want to try and win H7 like a computer. And would there really be a refutation with bishop D4? No, I don't think so, because then there'd be queen G8 check, and I'd even win the rook. I'd munch up the rook with queen takes F7 if the king had to go to C7. So I played this check, and lo and behold, I sneakily win this pawn. An engine would say maybe queen E6 is also pretty strong. There's still time for a queen to park on E6, because after rook FC7 I play check, and then I park the queen on E6. And here, you know, I'm thinking, is bishop E5, maybe he's going to coordinate, maybe, you know, rook B2, maybe H2. But then I realise, hold on, bishop E5, if you play bishop E5, there's F4, and then I'm winning D6 next. And actually here, after some thought, getting to about 7 minutes left, he resigned. I thought, wow, I've restored some rating points in the North Circular League after losing to John White, who coincidentally, Genghis also lost to John White. John White's getting a 230 performance out of the North Circular League. He's beating everyone. Anyway, that's another story. But wow, I thought, oh, I've just beaten my fellow 199. Cool. Let's go over the game in overview and summary. Anyway, so King's Indian defence, and I don't know, astronomical complexity, because we're not casting, offering easy targets and easy play. No, all these waiting moves. So I have this idea that I'm actually going to play ED and try to get a knight to E4 instead of my usual stereotypical stuff. So I guess this is completely the wrong idea. Maybe CD is technically a lot better. But I guess, you know, having a plan behind this idea counts for a little bit as well. Having a plan, even though it's a flawed plan because of H6, but he doesn't play H6. So I end up getting a bishop to E4 instead of a knight on E4 because of all this undermining. I end up playing this prophylaxis with Queen G2, and strangely I end up successfully playing B4 with great effect now, because he actually plays the disastrous C takes B4, allowing me a double rook battery on the B file and winning material in a very clear manner with rook takes B7 and then Queen H3 picking up the H7 pawn. So a strange game, and I just think, don't get too exhausted in your chess. If you want to play more concretely, there's a paradox there. Play intuitively to be able to play more concretely. Does that make sense? Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks so much.